everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we're on chapter 4, class 6, history, and it is what books and burials tell us. There are four types of Vedas: Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva. The oldest Veda is Rig Veda, which was composed about 3,500 years ago. It includes 1,000 hymns called Sukta or well said. These hymns are in praise of various gods and goddesses. There are three main ones: Agni, the god of fire, Indra, a warrior god, and Soma, a plant from which a special drink was prepared. These hymns were composed by sages or rishis. Priests taught students. The Rig Veda is in Old or Vedic Sanskrit. The Rig Veda is also heard and recited rather than written and printed, unlike the books these days. Sanskrit is a part of a family, which part a family of languages known as Indo-European. Some of the language in this family are Assamese, Gujarati, Hindi, Kashmiri, and Sindhi. Asian languages such as Persian and many European languages such as English, French, German, Greek, Italian, and Spanish belong to this family. Other languages in India belong to different families. One of these is the Northeast. I meant it's the Tibeto-Burman family, which is used in the Northeast. Yeah, these include Tamil? No, they don't include Tamil. This is a different family. And then there's the different family called the Dravidian family, which includes Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam. And the languages spoken in Jharkhand and parts of central India belong to the Austro-Asiatic family. As we said before, Rig Veda was recited and heard rather than read. It was written down several centuries after it was first composed and printed less than 2,000 years ago. 200 years ago. 200, sorry. Some of the hymns in Rig Veda are form of dialogues. For example, a dialogue between a sage named Vishwamitra and two rivers, Bees and Sutlej, that were worshipped by goddesses. It's just a story down here if you want to read. Not very important, I think. So this is a manuscript which is a part of the Rig Veda on birk bark, and it was found in Kashmir. About 150 years ago, it was used to prepare one of the earliest printed texts of Rig Veda, as well as an English translation. It is now preserved in a library in Pune, Maharashtra. Cattle, horses, and chariots. There are many prayers in the Rig Veda for cattle, children, especially sons, and horses. Horses were yoked to chariots and used in battles. Battles were fought to capture cattle, also fought for land, which was important for pasture and for growing hardy crops that ripened quickly, such as barley. Some battles were fought for water and to capture people. Some of the wealth was kept by the leaders, and some was given to priests, and the rest was distributed amongst the people. Some wealth was used for the performance of yajnas or sacrifices, or in which offerings were made to the fire. Offerings could include ghee, grain, and in some cases animals. There was no regular army, but there were assemblies where people met and discussed matters of war and peace. They also chose leaders which were skillful and brave. There are two groups who are described: in the terms of their work. The priests, sometimes called Brahmins, who performed various rituals, and the Rajas. The Rajas were not like the ones we will be learning about later, since they did not have capital cities, places, or armies, nor did they collect taxes, and they did not just automatically succeed fathers as Rajas. They fought battles. Two words were used to describe the people or the community as a whole. The first word was Jana, which we still use in Hindi, and the other was wish. It comes from the word Vashya. We found the reference to several Vish or Jana are mentioned by name. So we find the reference to Puru Jana or Vish, the Bharata Jana or Vish, the Yadu Jana or Vish, and so on. The people who composed the hymns described themselves as Aryas and called their opponents as Dasas or Dasyas. These were people who did not perform sacrifices and probably spoke different languages. Later, the term dasa and the feminine dasi came to mean slave. Slaves were men and women who were often captured in war. They were treated as the property of their owners, who could make them to do whatever they wanted. While the Rigveda was being composed in the northwest of the subcontinent, there were other developments elsewhere. Silent Sentinels, the story of megaliths. Stone builders are known as megaliths. They were used to mark burial sites, and it was used about 3000 years ago and was prevalent throughout the Deccan, South India in the northeast, and Kashmir. Some important megalith sites are shown before on map 2. While some megaliths can be seen on the surface, other megalith burials are often underground. This type of megalith is called a cyst. Some cysts, like the one shown here, have portholes, which could be used as an entrance and can be used while the body of someone else from the family has to be buried at the same place. Generally, the dead were buried with distinctive pots, which were called black and red ware. Also found are tools and weapons of iron and sometimes the skeletons of horses, horse equipment, and ornaments of stone and gold. Iron was not used in Harappan cities, just for reference. They could also find about the social differences between people by looking at the things that were buried with them. For example, a place with Brahmagiri had a burial of a very rich man, so he had 33 gold beads, 2 stone beds, 4 copper bangles, and 1 conch shell. Other skeletons have only a few pots. This tells us that some were rich, some were poor, some were chiefs, and some were followers. Sometimes megaliths contain more than one skeleton. These indicate that people, perhaps belonging to the same family, were buried in the same place, though not at the same time. The bodies of those who died later were brought into the grave through the portholes, as we talked before. Some circles or boulders placed on the surface were probably used as signposts to find the burial site so that people can return to that same place whenever they wanted to. A special burial ant in Gaon. This was a site at River Ghod, a tributary of the Bhima. It was occupied between 3600 and 2700 years ago. It had people with the head towards the north. Vessels that properly contained food and water were placed with them. One man was found buried in a large 4-legged clay jar in the courtyard of a 5-roomed house, one of the largest houses at that site. They were in a cross-legged position, and the amount of things that were buried with them
And the way they were buried shows that they were chief.
About 2000 years ago, there was a famous physician named Charaka. He wrote a book on medicine known as the Charaka Samhita. There, he stated that the human body has 360 bones.
But in reality, there are 206 bones. He came to a different conclusion by counting the teeth, bones, and cartilage.
And the joints. Occupations at Inamgon. Archaeologists have found seeds of wheat, barley, rice, pulses, millets, peas, and sesame, bones of a number of animals, many bearing cut marks that show that they have been used for food, have also been found over there.
These include cattle, buffalo, goat, sheep, dog, horse, donkey, pig, samba, spotted deer, black buck, antelope, hare, and mongoose, besides birds, crocodile, turtle, crab, and fish. This is evidence that fruits such as bear, amla, jamun, dates, and a variety of berries were collected.
This is just a elsewhere, you can read that in your own time.
Now let's look at the question answers. Sutta are well said. Chariots used in battles. Yajna is sacrifice. Tasa is slave. Megaliths are stone builders.
And we can check that over here.
These are the solutions to the different answers. You can pause the video to see these. And that's it. Thank